it's so funny because Mr. Henry used to weigh up almost 200 pounds or 200 plus pounds at the time. So you used to have the guys then lie down on their backs and you just sort of walk and start to step in the guys' abdomen. So there are times that you used to hear a lot of ear coming out of the guys. Mr. Miller always said, listen, camp is not for boys, for men. And you know, we don't have the resources to feed 100 men. Yes. So every Friday I have the most difficult task of cutting the squad. So some even up to this day, because actually the last meet and greet we had, there was a few guys that were still disturbed that they got cut. You know, but well, yeah, so it started from 1984. Mr. Henry and I started a journey as coaches together. He was the head coach, I was the assistant coach.
Lucea native Troy Malcolm has the distinction of being Jamaica's youngest schoolboy football coach ever. He started his coaching career at age 18 at his alma mater, Rusea High School, back in 1984. Troy's stint as assistant coach ran between 1984 and 1990. It began a year after he, as skipper, marshaled his school to the 1983 DaCosta Cup finals. In part 1 of this series, Troy Malcolm gives the breakdown of the out-of-the-box selection process and the highly military approach to training that he, as assistant coach and head coach, the legendary Emerson Henry, used at Rusea to create the most successful schoolboy football team in the history of Jamaica.
(1984), the legendary 1984 team. Tell us about that and how you became coach after being a player. Because that's a very interesting story.
And it definitely is. And I must say, I have to thank two persons. You know, and up to this day, you know, most of the work that I put into football is because of those two gentlemen, and that's Mr. former principal, Mr. Colin Miller, and former coach at Rusea High School, Mr. Emerson Henry. So after captain 1983 team, and then you know there was a little void because actually you know he was basically working by himself.
That's Mr. Henry.
Mr. Henry was basically working by himself, and I received a phone call from both of them for me to meet them down by Rusea High School there at the time. Because remember, the two schools has just merged, right. You know, so where we're currently at right now, for the viewers who are actually listening, is that the main campus of Rusea High School was Hanover Secondary School. So I think it's 1982 it merged. So he gave me a call there. They gave me a call and said for me to meet them down there at the main campus at Rusea High School. And I went down there and they proposed a question to me, asked me if I want to become a senior assistant. And without hesitation, because as a young man, you know, just leave high school and didn't think much about pursuing another career, especially in coaching. And the rest is history from there.
So you became a coach at age 18?
Yeah, 18 plus. You know, 18 plus going on to 19.
Yes.
And actually, I was also teaching phys ed at Rusea High School. So I remember Mr. Miller actually linked with, I think it was Miss Mitchell and Miss Jones at the time, and Mrs. Kelly at the time at Rusea High School, and they draft up my schedule, you know. So, you know, I felt very proud at the time because actually, you know, I get my own schedule where, you know, the different, the 7-1, the 7-2, 7-3 classroom, so you know exactly, you know, where my next scheduled classes are going to be. So I remember one time I was doing, I was interacting in one of the classrooms, and you know, I started to draw up the actual diagram of the football field and everything. And I see Mr. Miller walk up to the classroom with his hand behind his back and, you know, held his head upright, you know, like a proud moment, and like, you know, I start to see him shake his head and say, yeah, you know, so this is a product, you know. So kudos to those two gentlemen. I can't pay them back enough for taking that chance on me, and honestly, I think I repaid them very well.
Under the command of Emerson Henry and Troy Malcolm, Rusea High School, then the only high school in Hanover, became the standard bearer for the parish in the ISA schoolboy football competition. The entire parish rallied around the mighty Ruseans, and the school, located in Lucea, became the one factor that kept the otherwise obscure Hanover in the limelight.
Well, yeah, so it started from 1984. Mr. Henry and I started a journey as coaches together. He was the head coach, I was the assistant coach. And the same Watson Taylor Park that we currently at right now, you know, basically I was the chopping block person, so to speak, because when we used to have trials, we used to have like about 100 players. You know, so every Friday, you know, it was time. Mr. Miller always said, listen, camp is not for boys, for men. And you know, we don't have the resources to feed 100 men. Yes. So every Friday I have the most difficult task of cutting the squad. So each week or each Friday I keep trimming away the squad. And you know, some even up to this day, because actually the last meet and greet we had, there was a few guys that were still disturbed that they got cut. You know, but yes. You know, I would say 8 times out of the 10 we got it right. You know, so when we have camp during the summer months, you know, it was my task of basically doing the physical training. And so at 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock, they only hear the whistle start to blow, and everybody have to rise, and you know, they walk from the main campus all the way up to the Watson Taylor Park here, and we'll do a 3-hour training session. You know, so Mr. Henry will walk from his. But Mr. Henry house is just right across from Watson Taylor Park there. So he and I will start the journey with these guys. So this same sand here that you see right here, this beach, you know, they used to do a lot of physical training on this white sand, up and down for a couple of hours. Then we also used to do water training. So it's called strength, you know, building up the actual thigh. And
so they would go in the water?
In the water.
They tie stuff to their legs, or they just run?
Yeah, sometimes they used to have what's called a piggyback. So it's like, you know, they used to lift another person, carry another person on their back in the water, waist height, yes. And you have to push through the water. So it's more like a strength training, because at that time we didn't have access to a lot of weights. So we have to improvise. So, you know, we'll do that for almost an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then we come back on the sand, on the beach here on the sand, and we do a lot of strength training, especially abs. You know, so Mr. Henry used to, it's so funny because Mr. Henry used to, we have almost 200 pounds or 200 plus pounds at the time. So you used to have the guys then lie down on their backs, and you used to walk and start to step in the guys' abdomen. So there are times that you used to hear a lot of air coming out of the guys then. You know, so after that now, then we get them when they're actually extremely exhausted and tired, and then we take them onto the Watson Taylor Park field and we start to do technical drills, tactical drills.
So you push them to the limit. So it was like they were trained, like they were soldiers,
yeah,
essentially. They were training like soldiers.
Yeah, because it's, the thing about it and the beauty about it is that, you know, there are a lot of even skilled players that we had used to run from the train. Yeah, and some of them will come, and especially I remember Errol Williams, who was the goalkeeper, you know, even the same Glastonbury there, they didn't like the train, you know, but they'll say, okay, coach, I'm going to use the bathroom.
And go hide.
And go and hide. You know, so we haven't seen them come back for a long period of time, you know, but, you know, that was the beauty of it, that they see the results in the end. But, you know, you train them for 2 hours, 3 hours on the sand, and then the more tactical part of it, you know, in the sun out. So even 9 o'clock, we're still training on the Watson Taylor Park and doing a lot of drills there. You know, so that was it, you know, for almost 10 years.
You spoke about how you recruited players, that the class competitions was integral, yeah. Because you found some of the shining stars that were hidden.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, so we, in my time, right, and my time and Mr. Henry time before, remember, there weren't much high schools like now. So most of these high schools now, you know, they were secondaries and they become high schools. So that's after I depart from the island. But before, you know, we used to recruit a few people, a few students from different areas. We give them the opportunity. They had to come in and sit a test before they could get into Rusea's High School. But what I want a lot of the schools to do, especially Rusea's High School, is go back to the class competition. And I'm going to tell you why. Actually, the class competition brings out a lot of young talent that we would normally see on a regular basis. So we might, you know, Mr. Henry and I and the PE department might say, okay, we have in trials starting in March or April, you know. But those kids that had the talent, you know, they were shy because they say, oh, it's probably only, you know, the big stars I'm going out for trials. But when we started to develop the class competition,
yes,
then we realized that it was a bragging rights type of thing. So the 9-1, you know, want to beat up on the 9-6 or the 9-7s or whatever, because the 9-7 they were deemed as the more talented footballers. But then while the competition is going on, you get to realize that, listen, hey, there's two guys there that, you know, we can select, because actually the talent is there, but they were shy to come out and play.
And then usually you would have the 9-6 upwards being the lower stream,
right,
and then the academically inclined in 9-1.
9-1 to 9-4.
Yes.
Yeah.
But out of that competition, you got Centipede. Tell us about that.
Yeah. It's so funny because actually the other person that comes to mind when they talk about Centipede was Bryce Grant.
Yes.
You know, they're Seventh-day Adventists, so it's like their parents was extremely strict in regards to allowing them to come and play DaCosta Cup. And you know, most of the DaCosta Cup games played on a Wednesday and on a Saturday. So, you know, it's so unfortunate that, you know, myself and Mr. Henry saw Centipede playing at Watson Taylor Party. I think it was some corner league, and we drafted him to come, and it's like he wanted to come, but the parents were so rich. Up to this day, I don't even know exactly how his father allowed him to come and play. But he was an exception because actually he had it done pat in terms of academia and sports. So
he later became head boy.
Yeah, he later became head boy, and his team that is also won the DaCosta Cup outright in 1989, 1990. They weren't the most talented team.
Centipede's current name was
St. Ryan Steel.
Right, St. Ryan Steel. Right.
Yeah, so their team, you know, with G.O.A.T there and stuff, they weren't the most talented team, because actually when we started off with them, you know, I think they overachieved, because most of the people in Hanover or Lucea, they were saying that they weren't going to go far. And you know, they had G.O.A.T there at the time as a striker, and we played what, Excelsior in the Olivier Shield final. You know, had the likes of a guy named G.O.A.T Tanker. He was mashing up the whole Manning Cup. Alan Skillpool's son, just to name a few. And I think we beat them 6-1 at National Stadium in the Olivier Shield final. Yeah. In 1985, that was a special team, because actually it's still embedded in history as Rusea's High School, the only school football team that ever won 4 titles in one season. At that time, we were playing for the Nutrament Shield, you know, so it's no longer exists. So talented team as well. We have Linton Kongstewart was the captain at the time. I think Linton Kongstewart was the first DaCosta Cup player to be named MVP for the DaCosta Cup competition that year.
And out of Rusea's, we have to talk about the national, because we have a whole lot of Ruseans who went on to represent Jamaica.
Yeah. Well, two of the main persons that actually went to World Cup in '98 was Aaron Wildboy Lawrence and Steve Shorty Malcolm. So those were 2 of our products. We have them since the under 14 days. You know, so. You know, but we produce a lot of players who represented Jamaica as well. You know, just like Denton Melwood Samuels, Kenneth Gina, Linton Kongstewart. We had another captain too.
Maurice Samuels as well, JDF.
JDF.
And Jamaica.
And we have another Joshua Gibbs. Yeah, he was captain too. He also captained the Jamaica under 23. Because at a point, you know, Mr. Henry was also coaching the under 23 Jamaica team. Yeah, so a lot of times he was away. You know, so he and our good friend, Mr. Liebert Alleman, Burtis Bell, Jackie Walters. You know, those coaches actually kind of helped me groove in a little way. You know, because I remember even 1986 World Cup finals. You know, before the World Cup, Coca-Cola Pepsi put on a coaching seminar there up by G.C. Foster College. And I think I was the youngest coach there at the time. You know, so I was rubbing shoulders with the Jeffrey Maxwell, Carl Brown, Jackie Walters and all those guys up there. So it was a learning experience for me. And thanks to Mr. Henry again and Mr. Colin Miller, because actually, you know, anywhere that Mr. Henry was going at the time, you know, whether it's for coaching development, Mr. Miller ensured that, listen, there was a ticket or a space there for me as well. So kudos to them as well.